Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TeacherCast Educational Network. My name is Jeff Bradbury. Thank you so much for joining us today and making TeacherCast your home for professional development. This is Ask the Tech Coach, episode number 39. It's our February Tech Coach Roundtable today. Today, we're going to be talking to two amazing tech coaches all about how they're bringing instructional technology into their classrooms. Topics tonight are including those pesky RFPs. What do you do when it's time to have a huge conference? How do you get your proposal accepted? What do tech coaches look for? Lots of great topics on the upcoming ISTE conference and a reflection on the FETC conference that just was. Other topics tonight, we're going to be talking about our favorite Chrome extension, something we've been talking about here lately on the show, and also how do we keep professional development alive in our school district as the weather gets warmer, or in one of our guest case, as the weather gets even hotter, because he's, of course, from Texas. We'll talk about a little bit that as we go through here. Want to remind you guys, we've got some great things over here over on our Tech Coaches Network. You can, of course, go to AskTheTechCoach.com. Check out all of our great blogs, podcasts, and share this podcast with your friends. We love it when you guys share the podcast on our friends, and find us on Twitter. We are at Ask the Tech Coach. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail. And we love it when you reach out to us with your questions and email us at feedback@teachercast.net. Want to bring on our guest today. I want to bring on a returning co-host, Mr. Claudio Zavala Jr. Claudio, how are you today? Welcome back to the show.
Hey, I'm doing well. And it hasn't gotten hot yet here in Texas. We still have some time.
Oh, it's not 90. Is it? So that means it's like only 95 degrees, right?
No, actually today it's in the high 30s. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, Friday was 80 degrees, and then Saturday was 30 something. So we're supposed to get some rain tomorrow. We don't know if it'll freeze or not. But
tell us a little bit about yourself, Claudio. You hail from Texas. What do you do a little bit?
So I'm an instructional tech coordinator. I work in a school district just outside of Dallas, Duncan Valley ISD. So my role there is to work with educators, helping them integrate technology into the classroom. And so I do everything from creating content, doing online videos for on-demand kind of lessons. And basically when anyone says, hey, I'm trying to figure out how I can do this in my class, I said, well, here's a great tool that you can use. So it's always about the instruction, not about the tech. So that's kind of the approach that I take with the teachers in my district.
I am so glad that you mentioned that. One of the things that we had talked about last week on the episode was how to create these online learning modules. I'm looking to talk to you guys today just about this topic. But before we get into that, I want to bring on my next guest, Miss Susan Vincent. Susan, how are you today? Welcome to the show.
I am very well. Very excited to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am from just south of Louisville, Kentucky, in a small town called Mount Washington, Kentucky. I am a technology integration specialist for levels K through 12 at our local Christian Academy school system. We have 4 campuses, 3 of which are in Louisville, and 1 of which is in just across the river in New Albany, Indiana. So I've been a tech coach for a total of 11 years, and this is actually my first year at the Christian Academy school system.
Well, thank you guys for being here. And I also, one more time, want to give a big shout out to everybody who's listening. You can, of course, find us over on Apple Podcasts, on Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, all of the great places where you find your podcast today. Just check out everything over at AskTheTechCoach.com. We've got all the links. And again, please check us out and share us with your friends. Now, guys, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about the season that we just had and the season that's coming up. It is, of course, conference season. We are looking forward to the great conferences coming up. Of course, ISTE is in Philadelphia, and we all just were in Miami. Miami's next year, but we were all just in Orlando for FETC. Claudio, what did you think about the big conference in Florida?
So this was my first time attending FETC, and so it was a nice trip. Yeah, going to Orlando there. I was only there for 2 days, so I only got to see part of it, but very large compared to our local conference here in Texas, which we just had a couple weeks back. So it was great getting to connect with people that I see on social media and getting to see them in person, and just to really see how different states and the people that teach in different states, just kind of how they work. Just get to know them and kind of what's happening in their state, and talking with them. With basically, we all deal with the same things. We all teach. We all work with students, we work with teachers. So it's really not much difference. It's just we're in a different area. So that's kind of pretty much what I learned.
I want to echo that. It was great to see everybody. I love going around and seeing the people that, usually are just little Twitter squares or little Facebook icons on your screen. Susan, what did you think of the conference?
Oh, I was so excited to get to go. Having been to ISTE several times, this was my second trip to FETC. So just those, like Claudio said, those conversations with people just walking down the hall or after a session in the vendor hall, just being able to talk about how you do some things. I was fortunate to attend the Coffee EDU session, and just being able to have a quick conversation about how do you do this? How do you manage your learning management system? Those types of conversations are so huge, and it was just awesome.
It is amazing to go through and just see all the different philosophies of education that's there. Susan, when you go to these conferences, what do you look for? I mean, I know it's easy to say the coffee EDUs are great, the stuff in the hallway is great, but what kind of sessions as a tech coach do you look for to bring something new and innovative back to your school district?
Well, I always think it's very important to have a focus before you go, because these conferences get to be huge, even for experienced tech coaches. So for me this year, I focused on curation of resources. That's one thing I'm focused on with my coworker. We're actually getting ready to present on curating resources at our Kentucky Society for Technology and Education KISTE conference in March. So we're collecting ideas and trying to get different presenters' perspectives on curation. With the onset of the Wakelet extension and so many things like that. Figuring out what's important and how to teach teachers and students that. And again, just things to encourage student engagement and enhancing lesson planning was a big thing that I focused on. And then in the past, most recently last year, personalized learning, creating personal learning paths for students have been things I've focused on in the past.
Now, one of the things that I was very excited to see is that we are moving towards virtual reality, augmented reality. And Claudio, I noticed that you were eyeing up some of those booths. Where were you located mostly when it came to learning about AR, VR? What is exciting and new these days?
So one of the in both conferences, so we FETC and then our local one we just had here in Texas. So one of the things I was looking for is just getting into really understanding what AR, VR is and the resources that are out there and how you can leverage that technology, not with students and also with teachers. How you can create lessons, integrate that that technology, and really bring out what you can do in the classroom. You're doing a science lesson. You're really like bringing the students, bringing a heart like just right here, beating in front of you. Dissect it, looking at it, bringing those real world experiences that you probably can't take kids, into a hospital and look at a heart, but you can bring it into the classroom and look at it. Finding ways that you can create that kind of content is kind of one of those things that I was looking at. Think ways to tools that you can use to create content. That's kind of one of my other passions is just really talking about creativity.
Now, talk to me a little bit about that, because we last time we had you on, we were talking a little bit about the Adobe Spark apps, and that is all about creativity. But most importantly, it's about free creativity. What have you been doing lately with the Adobe Spark apps?
Well, lately I've been just sharing with folks how they can really tell stories with those three apps. So Adobe Spark Post, you can create graphics. Adobe Spark Video, create little short snippet videos, and then Spark Page, you can create little web pages. So I really share with teachers like this is a great tool that you can use to tell your story and help your students being able to tell their story in ways that, normally we say, hey, I want you to write an essay. Well, instead of having them write an essay, it's like, well, if you want to make a video, tell us about yourself, do a video, do a little web page, make some graphics, tell your stories in little images and little sequences of events.
I've been starting to use them in my classrooms with my teachers, and I've been finding that it's easy to use. Susan, have you tried the Adobe Spark applications yet?
Yes, we have elementary students at our school doing country researching a different country. So they're using Adobe Spark Video to present that. And our high school English classes are currently doing a big website on Shakespeare. So they're using the Adobe Spark page to create their Shakespeare research and put it in different categories.
Hey, Susan, a question for you. So the students, the high school students, when they're creating their, you said they're creating their the videos, or was it the pages?
High school students are doing the pages on Shakespeare.
So are they? One of the great things about the page is that is to integrate what you create in a Spark post, in a graphic, and a video, and drop them in. Which is I've seen many of the high school teachers doing that and creating the pages, and hey, make the video so you can put it right in your page. So
yes, meld it all together, definitely.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. I haven't tried that stuff yet. We've been using a lot of Google Sites in our school district. I haven't actually had a chance to try out the Spark pages. Are they comparable, or what would you use a Spark page for versus maybe doing a Google Site page versus some other kind of online thing?
So for me, a Spark page is a one pager. It's just like, I'm going to create this. I went on a field trip. Here's a one page about it. So a Google site, you're creating the whole, site. You have links, sub links. With Spark page, is basically a single page. You're not able to create a menu on it. So menu of buttons.
Is it a page or a poster?
It's a page.
Okay.
Page, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I would echo what Claudio said. Instead of writing that research paper, that page is just a great way to present that. You can have the information, the text, and the images and/or video that goes along with it.
It's certainly something that we haven't talked about a lot here on TeacherCast. If you guys are out there and you are an expert in all the Adobe Spark apps, please let us know. We would love to have you on. Of course, you can find us over on Twitter at TeacherCast, or send me a voicemail over at teachercast.net/voicemail. I would love to have you on, and maybe we could do a show together on all the Adobe Spark apps. Getting back into the conferences here, one of the things that we always ask each other is, are you presenting? Are you presenting? Did you present this year? How many things are you presenting? And with that being said, the question that always comes up, how? How do you get to present at these big conferences? RFP season, or request for proposals, for ISTE is usually in the fall. FETC is coming up soon. It's in the next month or so. They're going to be doing RFPs for that. Yeah. And we always have this. So Claudio, let me start with you. When I open up your computer, your Google Drive, your mic, whatever you use, how do you organize all of your names, descriptions, things like that? Like, what is your organizational structure? Let's just start with that question. There's a lot of things in here I want to unpack with this, but what's your organizational structure? So that way you can say, ISTE's coming up. Here's a suitcase full of different things that I can pick from.
Well, that's a great question. Before, I had everything just thrown in. I'm using Google Drive. I had everything thrown in there. But what I've started to do, in fact, about 2 years ago, is started creating. I have a folder called Conference Presentations, and within that folder, I have, ISTE, FETC, TCEA, Adobe, little short, small conferences, local conferences, and so basically, I have all those folders. I'll drop in whatever content I'm using in the sessions, but I have one document that I call conference proposals. And every conference that I presented at, all those little, because they're always asking you for a short description, a detailed description. What are the standards you're going to hit? So what I've done is I basically started copying all those topics. And so here's I'm presenting on Adobe Spark, creativity with Adobe Spark. And then here's a description. And then here are the standards. So then I'm presenting on Adobe Rush. Well, I basically have the same format. I'm not copying the same words, but basically I'll have it set up. And when a conference comes up, like ISTE or anything else, this one, it was accepted last year. I'm going to go ahead and submit it again. And a lot of times people say, "Hey, this is a great one. You need to submit it, and it'll get in." So that one, it seems to be one of the ones that seems to always get picked, because people love that Adobe Spark.
So one of the questions that comes to me a lot is if you're putting in a proposal for an ISTE and FETC, like the big conferences out there, do you do anything different for those than you would do smaller or local regional conferences? Meaning, okay, take your Adobe Spark presentation. Would you name that or call that or change the description for ISTE than you would a smaller regional conference, and why?
No, actually, I wouldn't. I don't. So the ISTE proposals are probably the most detailed ones out of all the other ones. So what I've done is I've taken whatever I've submitted for ISTE, and that's kind of like the main one, and I'll take that and use it in the other smaller conferences I present at, because they don't seem to ask a lot of details. Like, for example, I want the outline of your presentation. Well, okay, I submit it for ISTE. TCA or FTC does not. I don't recall asking for a detailed outline. So in that sense, I'm not putting the same things because some of them are asking for more than others. That kind of answers your question on that or not.
No, that does. I mean, I there's a lot of conferences that are up here in New Jersey, New York, Connecticut area, and I find a lot of times I'll do the same proposal for many conferences, but I'll change the name slightly. And once I find this, whatever the combination of words that gets the biggest audience, that's what I put in for ISTE.
Yeah.
So you're kind of tweaking things as you go, and I get that idea from just watching a lot of comics, right? Like they're just going from these small clubs to small clubs, moving things around, and then finally when they get their set together, that's when they go on HBO. Susan, do you have any tips and tricks? Like what's your secret for putting in proposals and doing these kinds of things?
Yeah, a lot of what Claudio said, and just knowing what the trends are and what the teachers, even in your own district, are needing, because usually that's a small sampling of what the entire state needs or what the trend is nationally. So definitely putting a hook in there at the beginning to get them to want to come, whether it be the title or whether it be that first line of the description, to let them know, hey, I want to be engaged in that topic. Whether it be your state conference. I mean, I was the president of our KISTE organization a few years ago, so I had to lead the conference. And so I'm used to being one of the ones the last few years to read those proposals. So, we as a board in planning the conference, we're looking for those hooks and what's going to engage those teachers under what the trends are currently.
Now, do you find that there's a difference between conference proposals and doing PD in your school? And for instance, one of my favorite sessions is creative ways of using Google Slides. Well, I tried that in my district and nobody wanted it. But as soon as I called the session Google Slides for beginners or Google Slides for advanced, then I got people coming to it. And I'm going, is that my district? Is that the way that I put things? Is that because the average teacher in a school district is not the ISTE crowd? And so you don't have to wow them with, 35 reasons why Adobe Spark Family Feud or, some of those kind of titles, right? Like,
I think I would agree that in my district they're more like using Adobe Spark in a science class.
Yes,
that's
make it specific to what they're going to do to get that population that you want.
I totally agree. As if we've done like learn how to create a YouTube channel or just create videos. But if it's not in context, if like teachers need to have it and what we've noticed, they want it in context. They want it to be relevant. So like, how am I going to use it? I'm a science teacher, and the hard part is you have like science teachers, math teachers, reading teachers all together. Sometimes like, well, I have to kind of make it, at some point it has to be kind of level and then maybe have breakouts. But if I get to just be with science teachers, then I can say using, Adobe Spark in the science class. Oh, okay. How can I do it in the science class or in language arts? I think that's a different. I do agree that in the difference in a local setting, as far as like a conference settings, like creativity with Adobe Spark. I think people that go to conferences, they kind of, I like that. I want to see that local.
And I think on either level, relevancy is the key word. Whether we're planning for a national conference, you have that crowd that attends, or whether we're back at our school district, we have just our normal classroom teachers who want to learn how to do something that will be relevant to them. So relevancy, definitely.
Hey, now, Susan, a quick question. Oh, sorry, Jeff, a quick question. So on the I've noticed like sometimes the titles for I'll talk about conferences. Do you tend to see those fancy or kind of, hey, getting Googleicious with Google? Do you see those as being the ones that seem to get picked more, or not as I guess trying to think of what as creative titles or catchy titles?
I mean, it seems that's been the trend the last couple years. So it tends to be, but then whoever the board is or the panel is who is accepting those proposals, we hope, and in my own experience doing that, you've read the description, and again, back to relevancy. You hope that panel has read it to make it relevant to the crowd that's going to be attending.
I like that. Yeah, I would hope so too.
Now, you might be out there saying, I am a tech coach and I would love to try and put a proposal in for ISTE or for FETC or for my local state conference, and I'm looking for help with that. And that is why I can't recommend enough going over to teachercast.net/mastermind and checking out our Tech Coach Mastermind, part of the TeacherCast Tech Coaches Network. We have some great stuff coming up for you guys over the next couple weeks. Of course, by joining our mastermind, you guys have the opportunity of coming to our 2 mastermind group meetings each and every month, getting one-to-one coachings with us, where we're going to help you guys out with your tech coaching, solve some of the problems that you guys might be having, and of course, we also offer all of our free lesson plans, our free templates, and so much more. Right now, we are still offering our February discounts, our 2-month promo, 6-month promo, and our 12-month promo. You guys can actually save up to $150 on our mastermind by going over to teachercast.net/mastermind today and learning how you guys can invest in your future by investing in yourself. Now, guys, I want to bring up another topic here, which is really, really important, because as Claudio had mentioned earlier, it is getting warmer. It's up to 34 degrees now in Texas. And I know a lot of school districts kind of have this idea that once the school year starts on the downside, maybe professional development isn't as needed. Once we do that January PD, maybe PD isn't what we need. Maybe we should be focusing more on the AP tests, on the finals, all those different things. What is a tech coach to do? So, Susan, I want to kind of bring you into this because you've been doing the tech coach game for a while now. What things should tech coaches keep in mind as the school year is winding down? Maybe as it's harder for a tech coach to get into a classroom because the AP teacher's going crazy, because it is getting into final exams times. What are some of the things that tech coaches can be keeping in mind or maybe have in their back pocket as, as teachers might not be thinking about doing tech coachy kind of things?
Well, what you brought up is totally huge. Be aware always of the time of year and know your teachers and have respect for them for the time of year that it is. So, in the past, we've adjusted our professional development to be a lot of face-to-face at the beginning of the year, around through November. And then when you're coming back from Christmas break, it's, as you said, it's starting to dwindle. So you adjust it in doing some job embedded PD where you're in the classroom and then you're going to meet again outside of the classroom to get those PD or CEU credits, whatever your district calls them, to get them in with approval from the principal, or you're doing online PD through your learning management system. So adjusting and being respectful of those teachers in the time of year.
Now, you've been, just like Claudio, successful doing the online modules, right? Things that teachers can do on their own time. Tell us a little bit about that, because we talked a lot about that last week in episode number 38, about how to create, where to create. Give us a little bit of your tips on creating the online modules for the teachers.
Well, I really started being successful at it in my former district. Last year, my coworkers and I, several teachers, again, would have conflicts of getting there this time of year. So we would come up with something, again, relevant to them, what they're doing in their classroom. And whether it be, learning how to use the insert learning extension, we would sit with them for 30 to 45 minutes, show them, get them loaded on the insert learning extension, show them how to set up a lesson. And that would be an hour of professional development. And then they would have to actually plan a lesson and teach it using whatever tool or topic that we taught them about. And then they would have to write a reflection and turn it into both myself and their principal to get the credit for it. So that was successful last year. And then in my new district, we actually have both. We are a Google district, but we also have Canvas as our learning management system. So my coworker and I have worked hard. We're both new tech integrators to the school system. So we've worked hard in putting lots and lots of modules on various ed tech topics on Canvas for them to pull and complete.
Now, you've got a few different places where people can find things, right? You've got Canvas, you got Google everything. You've also
Yes.
got a YouTube channel. How do you know where the best place to build or to store or to promote or what is the process here? A teacher wants to learn something, where do they go?
Yeah, well, I tend to be one of those tech coaches who, when a teacher asks me a question, I try to if it's feasible, try to make a screencast tutorial of it using Screencastify or Screencast-O-Matic, what have you. And I put that on my own YouTube channel, so I have it there. So we use those, and my coworker and I share. She has it too, and we put those on there. I'm an elementary person; she's a high school person, so we divide it up that way, and we use those for our Canvas modules and our Google Classroom module tutorials. And then also that YouTube channel is also one of those things where I can just pull from. Hey, a teacher emails me or texts me a question. I can pull that YouTube video that I made weeks ago on this very topic, and I don't have to sit there and type out a bunch of steps for them to follow on how do I do whatever.
Now, Claudio, I'm reading over our show notes here. It seems like you like to do online stuff because you can be in your pajamas. Am I reading this right?
Not so much that I can be in my pajamas, but teachers tend to. And from experience, this past December, I had the opportunity to participate in the Ditch Summit, and basically it was just an online classes and on demand. So basically, teachers signed up, and every day one video was released, but they would watch whatever they want to watch, and this was all over the country. So people that I got to see at conferences say, "Hey, I saw your video and I really enjoyed it." I said, "Oh, cool. What did you like about it?" Well, I like that I can watch it anytime, because if many people will watch it, when all their kids go to bed and it's like midnight, I'm like, I have time right now to watch this video. So locally in my district, I think that's kind of the trend that we're going to be moving towards. Just because teachers seem to be very swamped in, they're at school, they have a meeting after school, and then trying to get them to come to our building. And it's just, they're tired, they're falling asleep. So one of the things we're going to focus on this coming summer is creating content and basically having kind of on demand. I want to learn how to do this in your science classroom, and then just have different, and obviously working with curriculum folks. I don't know all the content, but I can say, hey, you're doing this. Okay, here's a tool that we can do. So these are different tools that you can use in the science classroom. And then basically, here's how you do it within science. So that's kind of what we're focusing on this coming school year.
I noticed that you're using WordPress to do this.
No, those were just some of the different applications I've seen around. We're using Google Classroom to do it. I've seen people use Teachable. And so what we're doing is we're putting our videos on YouTube where we can just easily put them into Google Classroom. And we used to use this. We have this other service that we're maybe letting go. So this is Google Classroom is free. YouTube is free. And why not use something that's available and free? Hopefully in the future, we'll get an LMS. But right now, we're going to be focusing on using Google Classroom to deliver the lessons.
It sounds great, right? Like we can take the learning wherever we want to. We create it. The teachers can consume it. It doesn't need to be anything. Now, let's take a look at some of the ifs and ands on this, right? If we say that a teacher can consume this content wherever they are, whenever they are, is there any pushback from your district that says, we shouldn't have to be taking this stuff while we're at home. We should be given time during the school day? Is there anything that tech coaches should be thinking? Because it's easy for tech coaches, right, to build all this stuff, but then you kind of have pushback saying, you shouldn't be expecting us to do this at 7:00 at night.
I've not seen any pushback. I've heard any pushback, but in fact, I've heard people say, we would do it this way. We would. Folks, different individuals say, now this is anecdotal, obviously, but people say, I would actually prefer to do it from home than do it at school. Because I'm teaching when do I don't have time in the day to watch something because I'm teaching a lesson, and then I have my conference time and it's being taken up with a meeting. So folks will be like, I would do it at home. So I've anecdotally, teachers have said it, but as a whole, I don't know if that's going to happen.
Now, Susan, as far as creating these things, what do you find is the best way to really figure out if the teachers are doing this right? Because we've all done those. I'm winking at you here. We've all done those
Yes,
bloodborne pathogen videos where you just kind of put it on the side, maybe change the
exactly.
tab a little bit, and you're really not paying attention to it. But give me credit, or give me CEUs, or give me the PD hours. How do we make sure that what we're doing is really being learned? Is it truly just show up to the teacher's classroom and then figure out if they're getting the skill? Or what advice do you have for anybody that's looking to start to build these things?
Well, I think with the trend of online professional development having evolved over the last few years, the way of keeping up with it is definitely still in the evolvement mode. Where we've talked at my new district this year of, how do we keep track of that? Okay, how do you know if they did it? Something I've been successful at in the past is just having them fill out the Google form with one field in there as some kind of reflection, and then using the Autocrat add-on to print them out a certificate, and they have that. At the present moment, we're still looking for the best way of doing that. You know, for me right now, it's just that reflection. And then I think as a tech coach, it's important on our part to provide the follow up anyway. We shouldn't just give them the training, whether it be face to face or online, and just turn them loose and expect them to perform. I think part of our job as a tech coach, just like any sports coach, is to follow up and make sure that they are still retaining that skill.
Now, how easy is it to do things on Canvas or an LMS versus Google Classroom? Is it one and the same? Is it just two versions of the same kind of a thing? Do you find with the LMS you might be able to build more or less? Or
Well, for me currently, it's one and the same because we're mainly Google Classroom at our elementary level and we use Canvas at our middle and high school level. But I believe with the way some of these LMSs are evolving, as they're adding tracking modules and things like that, I think, that could definitely make things easier as we move forward in the future with tracking professional development.
Claudia, what do you have any experience with all this stuff, or what have you heard about as
Well,
far as the online modules? Because I agree, there's a difference, but you can
yeah,
still get the same point across.
I think, well, I know that we've been investigating LMSs, looking into several. I know that our school, we have many teachers that are using Schoology in their classroom themselves, the free version. But as far as a district, I think one of the advantages that I've in researching all the different LMSs is the integration of student information system and talking with our, like the data, the teachers' accounts and all that. Whereas Google Classroom, I've heard there's a way to do it, but I've talked to several other districts that have tried it and it's been a bit tricky to do it. So we haven't done it ourselves. As far as communicating back and forth between like the student information system and where we have our other teacher information. So I'm saying all that because I think it would make it easy as far as tracking, because then it could somehow communicate back to their account saying, they are completing their hours or whatever. So we're kind of in the stages of kind of looking through different ones. But I think that autocrat feature I've seen it used, and that's a pretty fancy, pretty slick tool there, and it's free too, which is great.
What's your thoughts on badging?
I think the trend is kind of fading away. Honestly, in this year and last year, the conferences that I've attended, there's hasn't been many badging sessions, and I know that we were at one point talking about doing badging, and it just kind of, I don't know, it just kind of seemed to slow down a bit. I don't know if there's still people doing it. Partly maybe just it didn't work for us. It's
Does
hard.
it matter if what the system is? I mean, it's easy. I don't know. Is it easy to do badging using Autocrat if you're doing a Google-based system, and or to use a Schoology or a Canvas where everything's just built into the LMS, where you take everything and boom, there's your micro-credential because it's already built into the LMS.
I don't know. I would say in Google it might be with Autocrat be easy. I don't know about the other LMS tools.
Yeah, in my own experience right now, Autocrat would be the way to go if you're going to do badging. Like Claudio said, hopefully these LMSs will, be listening to us if they're out there listening, as a tech coach. Hear our plea, add some of this stuff so we can have some tracking mechanisms to definitely encourage our teachers this direction.
It's an interesting topic here. We've been talking a lot over the last couple of months over things like badging, and we're going to be diving a lot over the next few weeks into how to bring a learning management system into your school, how to set it up, how to deal with it. We're going to be having our friends from Schoology come on over the next few weeks and do some shows together on how to really build a solid professional development course. But we want to hear from you guys. Of course, we do our Tech Coach roundtables at the end of every single month. And much like Susan and Claudio, if you guys are interested in being a guest on the show and sharing a little bit of your passions for professional development, we would love to hear from you guys. You can, of course, find us on Twitter at @AskTheTechCoach. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail. or email us at feedback@teachercast.net. If you have any questions, any topics you'd like us to cover, or if you'd like to be on as a guest, we would love to learn from you guys and love to have you guys on the show. Now, the last topic of the day. A few weeks ago, we launched our brand new iBook, 40 Chrome extensions that every tech coach needs to know. The things that you must have up on your little Chrome extension toolbar, things that when a teacher says, hey, how does this work? I bet you there's a Chrome extension for it. I'm going to put my my co-hosts tonight on the spot. We want to go through some of our favorite Chrome extensions. Of course, we're going to put the link to get our book over on our show notes page. This is episode number 39 over at AskTheTechCoach.com. And we would love to have you guys download that book and check it out today. We've got a lot of great things on there. But I will do ladies first. Susan, what is your first and the one that I'm stranded at ISTE with nobody else around? What's your favorite Chrome extension to talk about?
Well, if I had to survive, I could not survive without Screencastify from day to day. I use it multiple times a week, if not every day.
And what do you use it for? It's easy to say I use it for screencasting, right? Do you have anything that you like to use it for, or ways to show off it to your teachers, or any of those little special things about it?
Well, I mean, it's one of my main things I definitely show off to teachers besides doing my own tutorial videos. But most recently, I've actually showed it to a group of our fourth graders. In their reading classes, they are doing book clubs. In their guided reading groups, they formed little book clubs by genre and reading level and such things as that. So they will be using Screencastify as a group to report on their book that they're reading. So they'll be making their own video using the web cam mode of Screencastify.
I love using Screencastify with my students. I love seeing how crazy and how creative they can be with that. And I would recommend get your kids making screencasts, get them making videos, get them making podcasts, all that great stuff. We've been talking about podcastingwithstudents.com is a new great place to go to learn how to do all these different things. But Claudio, you've got a Chrome extension starting off today that I love. I'm a paid subscriber of this thing. But I got to tell you, I'm surprised that you're having it on here as a tech coach recommendation, but I'll let you introduce. What is our first Chrome extension today that we're going to talk about?
It was just one of my, it's just one of the favorite ones that I like to use. It's called TubeBuddy. It's basically, like you said, it's a paid subscription for YouTubers. It's just a great tool to help manage and really to analyze, market your YouTube channel. So if you are into YouTube, that's a great extension to have. Again, it's a subscription based one, but well worth it. My other one that I love using, Remote for Slides. Especially when you're presenting with Google Slides, turn on add that extension, and then it sets up like a little link. You can use your phone to basically control your slides.
Now, how does that work? Is that Bluetooth? Is that Wi-Fi? Is that connecting through a third? How does that work?
I think it's Wi-Fi, if I'm not mistaken.
So, but it works. Chromebook, MacBook, desktop, anything. It works for that.
Yeah, I use it with my MacBook. I'm sure I haven't tried it with a Chromebook, but I would say it should work with a Chromebook. Another one that I enjoy is Share to Google Classroom. That one's a great little extension. So if you are on a web page that you would like to share with your students, in fact, you can set it up, click on it, and basically immediately share with your students a page, a link. You can share it, set it up, and have it sent to the classroom itself. But really cool little extension. And then the next one that I have, I'm sharing this one because for some reason, when you run Chrome on a Mac, it seems to eat up a lot of energy, a lot of RAM, a lot of power from the computer. So the Great Suspender, what it does, it suspends basically your tabs that you're not on. So basically kind of puts them to sleep, kind of deactivates them. So it's not using up your RAM in the back end. So until you click on it and say, oh, I want this tab turned on, and then it'll basically kind of refresh, and then you're able to do whatever you need to do on that tab. And then all the other ones kind of go to sleep. So you don't have to close the tabs.
I gotta try that one. That sounds like a pretty handy one, especially if you're working with some older machines.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, Susan, you got a few more here. What is Session Buddy?
A session buddy is an extension that will essentially save your session of tabs that you have open. So say I'm working on something on Friday of the end of the week, and I close all my tabs, shut down my computer for the weekend, and I want to come back to that same session, all those same tabs to be open. Session Buddy allows me to do that. And it'll save back, I know, at least 3 days, maybe more. So it will let you go back to your open tab session several days prior.
I gotta try that. Usually when I have a bunch of tabs open, I do the right click, save all of them into bookmark folders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This seems like you can do a lot more than that.
Yeah, Session Buddy allows you to, keep tabs on them. Keep tabs
Susan,
on your tabs.
Susan, does it ask you to log into your account in order to access it, or does it automatically save it?
Yes, you
Okay.
want to go in with your Google Chrome profile, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And then the last one is one that I am also a paid member for. What's your last one here, Susan?
My last one is Boomerang for Gmail. The district, in fact, the district that I just left and the district that I just joined this year had both recently gone to Gmail. And then one of the big questions, especially from our office staff and then myself as a tech coach, was like, well, back in Microsoft Outlook, we could schedule an email to be sent later. So in researching, Boomerang was what came to the forefront for me, because even as a tech coach, I'll get a Tech Tips newsletter ready, but I may not want to send it out till Monday afternoon. So Boomerang allows me to go ahead and get that all formatted and set up in my Gmail, and then I can send it later. And you get to pick when you want to send it. You can customize it all kinds of different ways. So very efficient.
We have some great Chrome extensions here. I got to tell you, the one that I wanted to bring up this week is one that every teacher should have, especially if they're running smart boards, smart TVs, Promethean boards, all that great stuff. And that is Google Docs Quick Create Plus. Now, I know this one sometimes gets shadowed by that new feature where I think you can go to, help me here. Is it docs.com/new or something like that? And you can create all these things. That's nice, but who has the time to remember all of those URLs? With Google Docs Quick Create Plus, it is a simple Chrome extension that when you click on it up on the top, it says, I want to create a new document, sheet, slides, drawings, forms, scripts. But then it also gives you a link to the template gallery. So in other words, if you're one of those people that's teaching, and you want to start a brand new Google form or drawing, you just click on one button, and it really is 2-finger access to opening up a doc. You don't have to even type anything. It's pretty cool, and it's very, very lightweight, and I've never had any problems with it. But I got to tell you, my younger teachers, kindergarten, first and second, love this because within a few clicks, they can just click on a brand new Google slide, and it automatically opens. Now, I love that one. That's usually the big demo slam of the day. So
that is amazing.
Yeah,
I learned something new just now. That's awesome.
I just added it.
The only thing I wish it would do is to do sites. Because our school is very big on Google Sites, and we use Google Sites for everything. And maybe if I had my wish, maybe My Maps, right? Like it's the other few ins that are in there. But really, it's everything that's in there is fantastic. So Google Docs Quick Create Plus, but that's not everything, guys. We want to hear what your favorite Chrome extensions are. Check us out over at Ask the Tech Coach. Check us out over on episode number 39 and download our new iBook or ebook or EPUB, whatever they're calling it these days. 40 Chrome extensions that every tech coach must know about. It is free, and you can download it today over at askthetechcoach.com. Guys, we are almost out of time today, but before we go, I want to say thank you so much to Susan and Claudio for being here on our guest, and we want you guys to be a part of our panel next month. We, of course, record at the end of every single month, and we would love to include you. Susan, let's start with you. Where can we find out about the great things that are happening in your neck of the woods? Share with us your socials, your websites, and all that great stuff.
You can find me on Twitter at SV314DWS, and I blog at Tech Imaginations, which is techimaginations.net. I also have a YouTube channel, which is the same as my Twitter account at SV314DWS.
And we'll have all the links to that in our show notes. My friend Claudio Zavala Jr., where can we find you?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram, both of them at Claudio Zavala Jr. And my website, which I have blogging and a bunch of other resources, is iamclaudius.com, and then youtube.com/iamclaudius.
And of course, check out all the great links. We will have that over there on episode number 39. And of course, you can find out more information about this podcast going to askthetechcoach.com. We have almost hit the 40 mark. We're going to be doing episode number 40 next week, where we would love to have you guys join us. We launch our shows every single Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern, and we make sure that we have only the best in education for you guys. There's, of course, several great ways that you can reach out and be a part of this and all of the shows in the TeacherCast Educational Network. You can find us on Twitter at TeacherCast. Leave us a voice message over at teachercast.net/voicemail. Email us at feedback@teachercast.net. And please, if you guys feel the need, take a moment today, go over to Apple Podcasts, leave us a nice little ratings, leave us a review. We are certainly looking to put this stuff together. This show can be found on our main feed, which is teachercast.net/iTunes, or you can, of course, search for Ask the Tech Coach. We have a dedicated feed just for this show. Also, don't forget that we're running our $150 discount this week on our Tech Coach Mastermind by going over to teachercast.net/mastermind. We would love to have you join us. We've got some great tech coaches in the group, and we are always doing some amazing things with our mastermind members. So on behalf of Susan and Claudio and Nick, and behalf on everybody here in the TeacherCast Educational Network, my name is Jeff Bradbury, reminding you to keep up the great work in your classroom and continue sharing your passions with your students.